Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Cig N The Big. My name is Cole Blenner. I'm going to be your big here this evening. And joining here with me is,
Sig, how's it going today?
Ciglen Wheeler. So it's going to be Cig N The Big. What is up? We're going to be talking some sports here today. Breaking down the NBA trade deadline, which did happen here a couple of days ago. Some of the buyouts, and then kind of our pre-postseason episode. We might break it down come playoff time, but we're going to break down the NBA season, where she's been so far, some of the moves that have happened, and where we kind of see the rest of the season going. So I'm excited here. Joining tonight, I'm a Miami Heat fan, so just for anybody who knows where our biases are going to stand, and then Ciglen,
Golden State, baby.
Golden State Warriors. So, a couple of, bandwagon jumpers here. Just kidding. That's Ciglen. I've been a Miami Heat fan since the late 90s. So, what's up?
Hey, I explained it in the first episode. If you missed it, go listen.
Go take a listen back. You can hear the origin stories of the Ciglen Warriors, love and fantasy and everything that goes along with that. But if you are tuning in, you probably have at least some sort of mild interest in basketball. So we're going to break it the fuck down here because the NBA season so far, it's been pretty interesting. I think there's been a lot of surprises. Would you agree?
The Jazz, the Suns, the 76ers, the Knicks, surprises everywhere. I saw there was this meme that was floating around, and pull it up real quick because I sent it to Chance. But it said the NBA in 2016, the Bucks were 12, the Knicks were 13, the Nets were 14, and the 76ers were 15. You go today, the 76ers are 1, the Nets are 2, the Bucks are 3, and the Knicks are 4.
I know it was kind of funny because I was talking with someone earlier today.
It's a 5-year turnaround.
Yeah, and it's like a lot of the teams who were shit and sucked when we were kids end up being these dynasties because because yeah, you look at it like your Warriors. Like I remember because if you're not, obviously there's no video for this, but Ciglen's wearing a throwback Curry Warriors jersey reminiscent of the rookie year. You're talking about the dark blue with the orange, the yellow. I love the old fashioned jerseys. The fucking hardwood classics. They are fantastic. But reminiscent of those Warriors teams, like the Baron Davis ones, growing up watching those, they weren't relatively good teams. And same with the Nets, man. The Nets after Jason Kidd and like the Vince Carter era were absolutely garbage for years. So it's kind of crazy now to see these dynasty teams take over from teams that we kind of look back and they were garbage. But yeah, like you said, 2016, man, the Bucks 33 and 49. The Knicks have been trash for a while though. This is kind of their rebound season. I think we'll talk about them here in a bit, just because they kind of deserve their own little attention and time with what's been going on there in the turnaround in New York. But first thing we're going to kind of talk about is the trade deadline. Going in, a bunch of expected moves. I think a couple of things that we expected maybe to happen. I think I expected Kyle Lowry to move. Did you have anything that you maybe expected to see that didn't happen?
I think everyone thought Kyle Lowry was gonna move, but like when the whole Drake FaceTime came down before, and like everyone knows how important Drake is to the city of Toronto, I think that kind of sent waves through like, hey, we can't get rid of Lowry just yet.
Exactly. Lowry is staying in the six. But one big star that did kind of go on the move, someone you've heard the name shuffled around at the trade deadline for years now, I feel like, but they didn't really want to do the fire sale until this year. We're going to talk about the Nikola Vukovic trade. What's your
Honestly,
thoughts, man?
that one to the Bulls shocked me. I saw that the Celtics were in on him, and the Knicks, I believe, were trying to get him. So, I mean, when I heard the Bulls, but that's like one of the perfect compliments. That's just what Zach LaVine and Corby White need.
Yeah, it's just a nice big someone who can kind of take over because they've invested some big round picks because the trade breaks down Al-Farouq Amino, Vukovic, for Wendell Carter Jr., Otto Porter Jr., 2021 first round pick with top four protection, a 2023 first round pick, all from the Bulls. Obviously investing in Wendell Carter Jr., Laurie Markkinen, the past couple of years, you go ahead and you go out and you get Patrick Williams at the wing, but definitely more of like a bigger wing. I feel like the Bulls have spent so much of their draft capital, trying to make the big position work. It's like you just go out and you get a bona fide star this time.
Yeah, he had all-star potential. Like, he's a perennial all-star. He's been there multiple times, and he's that solid bet. He's going to give them one of those presents and pieces that they need and will help them continue to build towards. And if he likes the city, he'll probably resign or get an extension done.
That's probably my question with the trade here because no doubt I think the Magic made the most of this trade. I think they got the most back. Wendell Carter Jr. is interesting just because there was just kind of a feeling there was just not a fit in Chicago. He just didn't feel like he enjoyed playing basketball there. He never really jived with any of like the head coaches or any of the players. Good player in his own right. I think Wendell Carter Jr. still has a lot of potential in this league here. And then also, shipping on over there too. I think when you bring over Otto Porter Jr., someone who's proven to be a decent scorer off the bench, a little overpaid, but obviously I think just there to eat salary. 2 first-round picks though for a player who could have been gone this offseason. So, I mean, not bad. But if you're the Bulls, you're still 3 games out of the 8th seed in the East. I don't know. I think it's kind of a risky move, especially when this seems like a title or bust move.
It seems like they're going to try to close the gap the best that they can, and if they can get it done, we'll see what goes on in the next season. But I would feel that if they don't make it into the 8th or the 7th seed, I don't see Vooch re-signing or giving it a chance.
Yeah. Like I said, that's kind of a risky move there. I don't know if you mortgage the future of players like Wendell Carter Jr., who you maybe could have gotten some picks back in return instead of, obviously, giving them away with Wendell Carter Jr. Like I said, kind of a funny move for a team who's outside the playoff picture. But, I mean, if you're going to have Zach LaVine putting up almost 30 points a game, maybe you go out and you get him the star he deserves to kind of play next to. And, see what happens. Maybe they make a run here late. Because Orlando didn't stop there. We're going to talk about the Fournier trade. But obviously, I think the biggest trade from Orlando was Aaron Gordon going to the Denver Nuggets.
Yeah, no, that's gonna help Denver close the race and really help them in the playoff stretch. It's gonna make Paul Millsap more of a bench player coming in with some fresh legs rather than having him start and running out there 30 minutes a game. It's going to create space. And I mean, you've seen it already. Murray and Gordon are connecting on those lobs. He's looking refreshed and he's looking happy to be playing ball again.
Yeah, I think Aaron Gordon was one of those players who needed an environment change. He needed just to get the fuck out of town. Because, like I said, Orlando, it's funny enough, for a place that has Disney, literally drains the life out of basketball players. Everybody who goes to Orlando, it's like this just bottomless pit of just what takes a player who was once magical and they just like drain it out. Like Shaq left town before, things got too bad. Like Penny got fucking hurt.
Unless you're Dwight Howard.
Dwight Howard's poisoned himself in Orlando, but even then, like when Dwight Howard,
no, they just took all of his like he left it there.
Yeah, well, yeah, because he was garbage in LA.
He's garbage everywhere after.
I don't know about garbage. I think he's a respectable player, but he's not Dwight Howard. He hasn't been. He left it there in Orlando. And then you talk about Tracy McGrady, obviously kind of the start of his injury problems down there. Penny Hardaway, his injury issues in Orlando.
I think last year with the Lakers was the first year we've seen a decent Dwight Howard in a long time.
And that was a 6-man rule.
His first run with the Lakers, terrible. Him with Houston, didn't work.
Him with Houston was a failed experiment. Bad. But I don't know. The Lakers, I felt like that was too star-studded at the time because you got Steve Nash, Kobe, you had Ron Artest, or Meta World Peace, whatever he was at the time, Paul Gasol, Dwight Howard. Like, that team felt like it was just too loaded and the pieces didn't gel together. Like, they were all too... Like, Kobe was way too much of a me player. Nash could have worked with Kobe, but I don't know. Too many ball-dominant players on one team.
They all wanted to eat.
Yeah. So anyways, fuck Orlando is kind of like the sentiment that we're bringing here. But just to recap the deal that we're talking about, we got Gary Clark and Aaron Gordon going from the Magic to the Nuggets, getting a fresh start. Gary for Gary here. The Magic are receiving back Gary Harris, RJ Hampton, a 2025 first with top 5 protection through 2027 from the Nuggets, which Nuggets are a young team. I mean, the Joker, obviously I think he's the dad body god. He is just going to, probably play the best he can until he's about 40 years old.
I think it's funny now that Orlando has RJ Hampton and Cole Anthony, who at one time were always battling for the number 1 or number 2 recruit in high school.
Yep. So that one's going to be interesting. I love RJ Hampton getting to move down to Orlando because I think this signals a full rebuild from the Magic, which is something they need to go through. Gary Harris, I don't know. There's been a missing poster out for that man for 2 years.
Yeah, I saw a meme that said something like the Magic soon's gonna look like the G League Ignite team. Man, that's a tongue twister there.
The G League Ignite team. I mean, at least they get a first round pick out of Aaron Gordon. RJ Hampton has some potential, so I don't know if you really hate this trade for the Magic here. I mean, Bleacher Report gave them a B plus. They gave him an A on the Vukovic trade. But if you're the Nuggets, this is the move that you needed. Though this is energy on offense. This is surprise shooting. Surprise shooting. He is what? He's 43.5% from catch and shoot threes. Obviously, we've seen what he can do inside the paint. I mean, he's Blake Griffin-esque. Before his injuries.
Robbed of two dunk contests.
Yeah, two dunk. And I will say that as a Miami Heat fan. Love Derrick Jones Jr., but fucking robbed of the dunk contest. So you re-energize him. You give him passion to play basketball again, and you give him a 4 who can do all these things on the offensive end and is a great player. Underrated on the defensive side. He's a great defender.
I believe it was like that year when he was like really blowing up. His plus minus was like 19. Was it 2017? He had like a plus minus of plus 19.
Yeah, like on average per game, which is crazy. I mean, it just shows you the two-way value because, that's how you really register a player's value on two ways. Like, players like Jimmy Butler, players like Drew Holiday, you measure obviously on plus minus, what do they create on the offensive end and what do they stop on the defensive end? This puts the Nuggets back up, I think, in that upper echelon. Because last year when they played the Lakers, it was like, okay, good on you for coming back and beating the Clippers, but you're not beating the Lakers, not this Lakers team. This puts the Nuggets in that group now. Because, I mean, we're going to break down the West earlier and kind of how it has shifted from last year, but I think this puts the West in the conversation that we're about to have.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. It really allows them to spread out the floor, and it's going to make the Joker and Murray aren't your two focal points. Like, you'll have a third person that you really have to worry about.
I know. I mean, the team, it feels like the mood of that team, like the theme of it is just flexibility. Like, space it out because the Joker obviously can play anywhere on the court. You're going to get the same kind of playmaking ability with Gordon Murray. Outside of it from there, it's like, you can kind of allow like Michael Porter to kind of do his thing, at the 3 and just work what you need to work from there.
Yeah, definitely.
So Orlando obviously moves to the bottom of the East here. They're signaling a tank here, but I think nothing signaled that one more than the Evan Fournier trade because you have a guy who's having the best year of his career, averaging 20 points a game, and you ship him off for Jeff Teague and 2 second-round picks. I mean, what the hell were the Magic thinking here?
I mean, get more picks and waive Jeff Teague. But, I mean, did you see his debut? He had the worst debut after a trade in the history of the NBA.
So that's just jitters, though. I mean, the man's been on fire. I mean, at the point of the trade, he was averaging 19.7 points, almost 4 assists. He's hitting about 39% of his threes, too. So, like I said, I mean, bad debuts are bad debuts. But obviously, after Gordon Hayward left, the Celtics needed, some jumpstart offense from, kind of the 2-3 position. I don't know. I'm not saying like this is it, but obviously the Celtics have been sorely lacking because, I mean, they're 23-24 right now.
Yeah, they are probably my biggest disappointment.
Yeah, of NBA teams, hands down. I think either them or just me being a Heat fan. I'd say the Heat, but obviously I know the reason for our struggles, injuries, kind of COVID absences. That's been a real big one behind us. But yeah, the Celtics, there's really no excuse. You still have Tatum there. You still have Brown there. You have a good team. You actually had like Tristan Thompson. I thought they'd be a lot better this year.
I totally did too.
So I think the Fournier trade can turn it around though.
We'll see what happens.
It can turn it around. We'll see what happens. Like you said, the debut is absolute garbage, horseshit, dog shit. From here, I guess if you're Orlando, you just stock up on picks, you signal official rebuild. I mean, Cole Anthony's looking pretty good, right? As far as like point guard of the future, I don't know if I'd put him in the rookie of the year conversation, but he's got potential.
Yeah, no, and he's young too, so give him a little bit of time, let him grow, and I think he'll definitely be better. And as the year goes on, he'll understand the pace of the game, because everyone says the pace of college basketball and the pace of NBA are two total different things. And you got to figure that out. Because college basketball, you got an extra 8 minutes that you're playing in the NBA, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yep. So 2 20-minute halves in college basketball to 4 12-minute quarters or periods in NBA basketball.
Love late night math. So you got to figure out, the difference between the race that you were running and the marathon that you are in now. And then the spacing is a little different because you got your deeper 3-point and you got wider on the sides, I believe, by like 4 to 6 feet, something like that.
Yeah, I think the 3 point is 2 to 3 feet deeper, and then it's a little bit wider on the sidelines as well. Because Duncan Robinson was talking about this on his podcast as well. It is extremely hard for people with big feet in college basketball to like nail corner threes, because if you're rocking like a size 17 or 18 at that point, like just getting your feet between like the sideline and the 3 point line, I mean, such a fine line of space there. And he has like, because he's 6'7", so he's got really big feet. Yeah, it's just kind of a struggle that goes on there. So there's a lot of differences between the college and the pro game. And that's one thing that I saw in college with Cole Anthony. Being a UNC fan, I saw him. He was very mistake prone. Like originally, like he'd probably drop like 20 points starting out for UNC, but it'd be like 20 points and like 7 of 20 shooting, missing a handful of free throws, and then also having like 4 or 5 turnovers. And I think you're going to see that with him on the Magic too, because he's Greg Anthony's kid, so he's got the NBA pedigree. I think it's just only a matter of time. If you just give him the reps, you give him the minutes, and in a rebuilding time, he's going to get the minutes. So,
oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
They literally said, here's the ball, go have fun.
Yeah, go have fun. It's not like we're trying to win or anything over here. And I think the Magic, relatively, they haven't traded away a lot of their picks. So, at least they're pick smart for the next handful of years, kind of.
They believe they have 3 first rounds in this upcoming draft.
Well, if you count it from Vigovic, so you have 2021's first round pick from the Bulls. So as long as the Bulls don't finish in the top 4, which ideally, if they're making a run at the playoffs, that'll be.
You're not going to finish.
I don't know, 18, 19, 20, 20th pick.
Still not finishing in the top 4.
No. I mean, unless they, win in the lottery if they miss the playoffs, but once again, you're talking like 0.5% odds. So you get that. You get a 2023 first-round pick unprotected. So, once again, if Vuk leaves, some shit happens. The Bulls are the Bulls. That could turn into a really good pick. That 2023, I think, is going to be kind of like your center gemstone of that. Your 2 second-round picks back from the Celtics are going to be great for Evan Fournier, because I'm sure some team could have offered a first-round pick. Like even the Nets, the 2021, because it's going to be like number 32.
Then didn't they also get a first from the Nuggets as well?
Yeah. So, and then moving up to the Nuggets 2025 first round pick, but that is top 5 protected in 2025 and 2026. So if the Nuggets shit the bed those years, they'd have to wait till 2027 for the pick. But still, good draft capital going forward. So, but we can just discard the Magic for the rest of the season. But moving on down the coast of Florida, let's talk about my Miami Heat, because I think we absolutely won the trade deadline, if you're going to ask me. And I'm biased, but.
I mean, he said Oladipo won the trade deadline. He's been saying this is where he wants to go. He finally got his wish. Let's see how it pans out. His debut is tomorrow.
I think the thing that shocked me is what we got him for, because at the end of the day, I knew we weren't going to give up Hero or Robinson, but I felt like Kendrick Nunn was a done deal. Like Kendrick Nunn was going to go to Houston, and he was going to start at point guard the rest of the year for him. And that didn't happen, because we traded Avery Bradley, who's been way too injured and is our 3-and-D shooting guard, and we get Oladipo back, who's probably the best, I don't know, in my opinion, and this is before he joined the Heat, the best when he's healthy shooting guard in the NBA as far as defensive ability. We trade Kelly Olynyk, who I like Kelly, but he's not worth the money that we're paying him. And so obviously if you're going to make salaries match and he's just going to be a free agent at the end of the year anyways, bye. And then we do a 2022 first round pick swap. So they have the rights to swap us picks if we are better in the draft that year. So we don't lose a first round pick. We just, have the swap there to potentially go down. Bleacher Report gives the Rockets an F plus on this. What do you think about this with the Depot trade?
They knew he wasn't happy. They knew he wasn't going to resign. They're like, we'll give you some gold for bag of chips and some dip.
Yeah, because I think for the Heat, just the team, because it's been known he wants to go to Miami. Miami, or I think what was it, New York, were like the two teams that he would actually consider a trade to and re-sign with. And so like that was public knowledge pretty much. And then so Miami says, hey, go ahead and take some of our salary sheds here so we can get a flyer on Victor Oladipo. And, if we have any sort of success, he's going to re-sign with us. And, we just got a potential superstar who fits right in our system. Because if you're talking about the perfect player to go alongside Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler in just that gritty defensive scheme, I mean, who else but Victor Oladipo? I mean, Drew Holiday would be the only other person I would think of, as far as like perfect fits in our team.
No, I think Oladipo will actually be exactly what you need, and if he can stay healthy and be what he was for the Thunder or even the Pacers in those early years, I think you got a good one there.
Well, and I think we have enough to back him up too. You still got Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero, Kendrick Nunn, all able to play minutes at the guard. So I think you save him for the playoffs. That's when you start uncorking him for your 30 to 35 minutes a game, and he's going to in that Eastern Conference where we do have a lot of guards to kind of start guarding up against, the Kyrie Irvings. Obviously, Ben Simmons is someone who's going to play at the guard position, and if you want to look at someone who's smaller but can still guard him, yeah, this helps us big time because fucking A, it has been so goddamn stressful being a Heat fan this year because we have been so back and forth. We start out like shit, and then we rise all the way up to the 4 seed, and we're like 5 games above 500, and then we lose 6 straight, and then now we're back up to 500 at 24 and 24. We beat the Pacers at the time of this recording. So probably by the time it comes out, Victor Oladipo will have made his debut. We're sitting at 6th right now. I don't know. From an outsider's perspective, what do you think about the Miami Heat going forward in the
He's
East?
someone who could help you close the gap if everyone can stay healthy.
Yeah, so, I mean,
He's someone that can help you close the gap if he's able to stay healthy and the rest of your squad stays healthy. And he could definitely help you make a run to even the top 4 spots, knock the Knicks out. And I mean, that would be a dangerous squad to compete with. I mean, you saw what they were able to do last year. You add a few more pieces. You get rid of some guys who necessarily, I mean, Avery Bradley wasn't there for either team last year. And you have Kelly Olynyk. I mean, love him to death. He's been a great player, comes up big every once in a while, but Oladipo's way bigger deal than he will ever be to your team.
well, Kelly Olynyk, I mean, last year was so touch and go in the playoffs. Like it's like one playoff series he'd average 15 and 8. The next playoff series he literally would not play. Like Jay Crowder was probably our power forward the first 2 rounds. I mean, he balled out against the Celtics, but he usually does that. Against them. So when we
It's
play
like a
the
revenge
Celtics,
thing.
exactly like a former team revenge thing. And then in the finals, nowhere to be found versus Anthony Davis. So yeah, because looking at the rest of the East here, you have the Heat sitting at 6. They're only 2 games or a 1 game out from the Hornets, who are 24 and 22. I mean, after the LaMelo injury, you have to wonder though. Like the Hornets, like their ceilings. I love their future, but this year, I mean, that injury kind of screws them.
I read he's only out a month though.
That's
I
rough
read
though.
that I read it's not a season-ending injury.
But still, going forward though, I mean, 1 game out. I mean, Heat, Knicks, Hornets. Which out of those 3 do you think are going to be the top seed? I mean, I'm biased, but I think it's going to be the Heat. You have Jimmy Butler healthy. You have Tyler Hero kind of coming more into his own here. You have Victor Oladipo stepping in, like I said, which is going to be money. You have Nemanja Bjelica, who we get in at the power forward position. I think who is. Don't get me wrong, he's been trash in Sacramento this year. Usually a 40% 3-point shooter. He's shooting 29% this year. But I think he turns around in Miami. So, fuck me. Like, I don't know. The Heat do so much of my emotions because it's like they come around to be this great team. Like I said, because this year we were down because of COVID and injuries, and then we fought back. We were like 4 or 5 games above 500, the 4 seed. And then, we just went on a 6-game losing streak or 7-game losing streak. And then we just won our last 2 games the past, against the Knicks. And then here tonight, the night of this recording, the 31st against the Pacers. So, then you get Trevor Ariza in too. If you can shake off the rust, you get a good 3-and-D wing there. I mean, this is a title team because last year I'd say that this Bucks team's a little bit better with Drew Holiday. But definitely not regular season wise. They're better than the Bucks team we saw in the playoffs, but I'd still say the Heat take them in a 7-game series.
Yeah, it's a tough dogfight to be in 7 games.
The only one I'm worried about here,
Nets.
or I should say the 2 ones. No, not the Nets, because the Sixers, I believe you'll get the revenge of Jimmy Butler. You're going to get like NBA Finals version of Jimmy Butler. You want to talk about bringing the dog out of the dog.
Triple-double Jimmy Butler?
Oh, triple fucking double, leaning over the bench, put the team on my goddamn back and follow me to a ring, Jimmy Butler.
Watch the shot fall, Jimmy Butler?
Exactly. Fucking watch it. Enjoy it. Pay $20 for a cup of coffee and fucking love it, Jimmy Butler. So,
the Butler Bros, huh?
The fucking Butler Bros. Like, it's gonna, I don't know. Once again, super biased. I think the sky's the limit for this team. Obviously, the Nets are who you run through in the East, though. I mean, that's pretty obvious because if we're talking buyouts, I mean, LaMarcus Aldridge goes there as an afterthought, bitch. But you get Blake Griffin there as, their power forward. You still have DeAndre Jordan, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, James Harden,
Joe Harris.
Spencer Dinwiddie is going to be back this year, maybe? Or is he healthy right now? I think he was at least out injured, so I might have to check that. Let's go ahead and peep the stats here. Thank God for Wi-Fi and internet. But then it's going to take forever the second I shout it out. That's exactly how it's going to happen. This episode is brought to you by Midcontinent. Freezes at the most inconvenient times. Midcontinent, it's still better than Vast. All right, so we have Harden injured right now, but let's go to the roster. What do you think about those blue and red like throwback Nets jerseys? Like while we're killing time here.
The tie-dye?
Yep.
Sick.
Dude, I fucking love them. I wish they go back to more 70s jerseys. I feel like the 70s, I mean, maybe it was drug fueled, but I felt like those jerseys were absolutely fantastic.
Jeff Green has also been a big piece for them.
That's true.
And if Landry Shamet or Tyler Johnson can figure it out, that's a tough, deep squad. But getting rid of...
I just don't see a dynamite team. Like last year's Lakers, I think was a dynamite team because this year you're seeing a problem with the Lakers without LeBron. But last year's team was, I mean, they were more powerful.
I think the biggest thing that is gonna kill the Nets though was getting rid of Allen.
I think that was the dumbest move. But also at the same time, let's talk about how the Houston Rockets could have had both Karis LeVert and Jared Allen and then took neither.
Yeah, they're like, we're just gonna. Instead of taking the good players from the team, we're just going to take nothing.
Yeah, and then we're going to turn...
But we'll take Oladipo, who doesn't want to be here.
Well, they pretty much like... It's pretty much like going to a car dealership and then like trading in your car for a couple of rental jet skis that you're going to have to give back in or you're going to lose anyways. Because like what's the future value for Kelly Olynyk or Avery Bradley? That first round swap is the best thing you have, and that's if the Heat just absolutely tank ass in 2022 and that turns into the first overall pick. You know what I mean? Like that's the only way you win this trade is if the Heat suck. But once again, I don't kind of see that happening. So
yeah, I don't know. There's really nothing to say nice about the Rockets. I think you're gonna watch a tank race between them and Orlando the next few seasons.
So
unless Orlando gets some crazy pieces next year, so we'll see what happens. But I don't think many people want to go play in Houston. I think you kind of see it with the culture there. You see all the superstars shying away. I mean, they saw Boogie Cousins wasn't doing well there. James Harden obviously didn't want to be there. John Wall's really not liking it.
I mean, there's just a certain point where you start to, like you said, the culture. You start to get this feeling from the organization, kind of like also with the Houston Texans in football. Or different organizations, you get this stench from there that players don't want to be there. Or good players who want to win don't want to be there. It doesn't matter what moves they make. It doesn't matter what success they have. People just don't want to be there at the end of the day.
Maybe the Astros fucked Houston so bad that they should all just relocate their teams.
Houston's a city of bad luck, though. 'Cause, I mean, don't get me wrong, the Astros came around, but the Texans have been disappointing their entire tenure. The Oilers were the best success you ever had, and they left you. Like, ugh. I don't know, man. Must be rough in Houston. It's funny because Texas is such like a great sports area, but if you actually look at like the success of some of the other cities outside of Dallas, not so great. So, not everything's bigger in Texas. Last trade we're going to talk about, though, I mean, small one here, Rondo, Lou Will swap. Questionable move by the Clippers, I think, is why I want to bring this one up. I don't get why you move Lou Will for Rondo, other than last year you needed defense at the point guard position. So this fixes maybe that 3-1 collapse against the Nuggets. But that's it.
Yeah, I mean, Lou Will's a bona fide scorer. Like, Lou will put 30 on from the bench.
Yeah, I mean...
Lou Will's six god.
Well, yeah, all-time greatest six-man, like, what is it, 4-time winner of the award. And so you trade him on over, and, I mean, let's take a look back here at the standings, but... With the Hawks, they're sitting at the 7th seed right now, right behind the Heat. They can also make a run of it, too. Lou Will going back to Atlanta. I mean...
I hope the Hawks just always announce him as Lemon Pepper Lou.
Lemon Pepper Lou. Cooking it up. Spicy. So, other than that, I mean, George Hill went to Philly. We had Andre Drummond going to the Lakers. So, I mean, you were kind of talking about that a little bit earlier. What do you think about Drummond going to the Lakers?
Scary. So, back in the day, you remember the meme going around, like, when the Warriors... got Boogie Cousins and they were like, I've got them all, and they showed that Thanos was getting the 5th Infinity Stone. That's what the Lakers just acquired there. They got their fifth Infinity Stone. I mean, he's a bona fide starter. Was starting all season long for the two teams that he played for. And you throwing him in there, you're going to allow Anthony Davis to go play power forward. You're going to have Schroeder, LeBron. Like, that squad's going to be deep, too. I mean, it doesn't even need to be deep. Plus, you have Montrezl Harrell somewhere coming out. Like, yeah, I did not like that at all as someone who doesn't want to see the Lakers repeat, but that's going to be a hard team to go against, especially with that's like Twin Towers. Drummond and having Anthony Davis.
Well, because Drummond's very underrated, I think, as far as his ability to, like, kind of play with the ball in his hands. Not so much, I mean, you've seen him take a couple of 3-pointers.
Rebounds.
Well, I know, but, like, he's also, like, surprisingly skilled as a passer, too, especially out of the post.
Oh, definitely.
So the Lakers are definitely dangerous going into this year. And then you still got Kyle Kuzma, Talon Horton-Tucker, who's, kind of blossoming as a young player, still only 20 years old. You got a good roster there. They're deep, but I think the West is deep. And we're going to kind of, I don't know, which one do you want to talk about first? Because we're going to break down conferences now. We can talk about the East or the West first. So
I feel like the East will be easier to talk about. The West has a lot more diversity.
True. So let's talk about the East here. Just to run a quick recap, just because we've been talking about it. Obviously, we have the Nets sitting at, as it sits, March 31st at 8:55 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We have the Nets sitting at 33-15. The 76ers a half game behind them with 32 wins. The Bucks are 2.5 games behind them. And then you got a significant drop to kind of like the meat of the Eastern Conference. But let's talk about that three-headed monster first before we kind of get to anything else. The Nets, the Sixers, the Bucks. Out of that three-headed monster, break it down for me.
The way the Sixers are playing right now, it's kind of unstoppable. And if they are all healthy around the playoff run, I don't know what you're going to do. I think they're probably the biggest competition for the Nets. And the fact that they're going to both finish top and not going to have to see each other until the end is really going to benefit both of them.
Yeah, I think as long as you stay 1-2 there, you don't let the Bucks kind of creep in. The Bucks Sixers is going to be a good matchup, but the Nets, I don't know. I think the Nets are just very top heavy. The Sixers, though, they give me more of the vibe of playoff success because I think you have a really salty team after the last couple of years
with a great coach now.
Oh, great coach. I think Doc Rivers was the perfect fit for that team. The only thing is I think if you get Doc Rivers in there, I hate saying this as a Heat fan, but if you get Doc Rivers in there earlier and you keep Jimmy Butler, can you imagine what this team is? Because they still have Tobias Harris, who is now playing like a bona fide all-star. The fact that he didn't make it, I think, was a huge snub. Embiid is an MVP candidate. I think Ben Simmons is also, maybe a top 15, MVP candidate, ranked player as well. So a rather deep team who now gets George Hill that, adds just more depth to it. I mean, then also Dwight Howard there too, like playing like six man. So I think they're the biggest threat to the Nets. And I think the Sixers, would be my pick to win out of the East. The Nets, once again, still top heavy. If you get Harden, Durant, and Irving going, I don't really know who in the NBA can stop that at the right time. It's
almost as good as Durant, KD, and Clay.
At the end of the day, though, it's going to be interesting because I'm not going to include that conversation yet. I don't want to start including this Nets team with the Warriors team. But once again, if you see the Nets win a title this year, if you see them start to gel together for a couple of years and that comparison comes out, it's going to be interesting because Kyrie, I'd say Steph is better than Kyrie. But where do you talk about James Harden and Klay Thompson there? Because obviously KD is KD, so that's the level factor between the two. But if we're going to have a small convo about that, Klay Thompson, James Harden, where's the conversation there? Like, I think between the two of them. He's signaling his ring finger right now. Yeah, of course you're biased. Fuck you, Klay Thompson. Like I said, not now. I don't think you can even talk about that trio there.
Say fuck you, Klay Thompson? He's the greatest off-ball player of all time.
Oh, I love Klay Thompson.
He's the fastest player to score 60 points ever. Like, out of anyone in the NBA to ever play, he scored 60 points in the less amount of time played. I believe it was 60 points in 29 minutes.
I think so, yeah. Either 29 or 27 minutes.
I believe it was 29.
Yeah. And I think it was on, like, super efficient shooting, too. Didn't he only miss, like, 4 shots?
And it was off of 4 dribbles.
Yeah. Absolutely amazing. But once again, okay, just had to ruffle your feathers there a little bit.
It hurts that Klay's not playing. He's amazing. He is something else.
You guys are going to be fucking nasty next year, though, just barring Klay cannot get hurt again. Like, I miss having Klay Thompson in the NBA. I do.
Can we just get him on the bubble boy suits? That's what he'll work out in. We'll keep him in that.
Dude, they tried to keep everybody in a bubble last year. That still didn't fucking work. All right, he still got
Nah,
injured
he
before
needs
the
that
NBA season.
protective bubble around him.
Yeah. Well, then he's just gonna grow all soft, and then he just gets hurt the second he does play.
But he is shooting in his driveway. His stroke's looking good. So watch out.
If he was healthy, do you bring him back if you guys make the playoffs just to say fuck it in the West? Because it's not really that top heavy, as we'll kind of talk about.
That was something they talked about, and I believe Bob Myers has already shut it down.
I don't know. I'd love to see Clay back. I think we'll cover the Warriors though. Enough side tangent. The third team though, the Bucks. I feel like the Bucks are forgotten because last year, man, they were the team. Doing WWE like celebrations before the games, you know, in the locker rooms. You know, they were clotheslining motherfuckers, doing power bombs. I mean, I love the Bucks pre-bubble, like pre-shutdown. The Bucks were fucking awesome.
I think had the Bucks not gotten rid of some of the pieces that they've gotten rid of in this offseason, they would be there. But I think you're kind of realizing that some of those players that you had were a lot more key than you realized, like Brogdon and
I think Brogdon's the biggest. When you look back at like this could have been it. Like I talked about the Sixers, you could have had Jimmy Butler still there. If you look at this and you could still have Malcolm Brogdon there, that one's the biggest loss of what could have been. I mean, a dynasty type team because I don't know. The Bucks they're the 3 seed right now. They're going to probably win the Central Division just because they're 8 games up on Indiana, so they pretty much got that locked up. But yeah, because Middleton. I think there was hope there for a while that Chris Middleton would like kind of prove to be a 1B, even though I think he's definitely proven to be a number 2 because last year when Giannis got shut down,
you've seen it now. It looks like Giannis's brother is kind of coming into his own right now. Giannis is injured.
Thanasis.
Yeah.
He's got a fucking way cooler name. So he's only 6'6", though. Interesting. But I mean, a decent roster. I thought Drew Holiday would probably add more than he has because, you know, I mean, he's a top defensive player in the league. I thought he would kind of be the missing link for that team. Not that they'd be better than last year because that team just kind of vibed on a different level, but Brook Lopez isn't getting any younger. I don't know. Bobby Portis, I would hope, you know, would kind of be a better player for him at the, you know, the center power forward position. Yeah, I don't know. PJ Tucker was probably another one we didn't talk about from the trade deadline. I think he's an interesting signing. Obviously, he's older, but he adds, you know, the ability to hit the 3-pointer.
Yeah, he's that great wing 3 guy.
Yeah, you could probably put him in a small ball lineup where Giannis is playing the 5.
Which Giannis could probably play very efficiently.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he plays the 4 naturally as a position. So, you know, moving to a small ball where he plays the 5, easy because, I mean, shit, he's averaging, like, what, another fucking 15, like, rebound season again this year. He's definitely leading the NBA.
Yeah, he's on a revenge tour. I think, but you're going to have to see what this offseason brings because they're definitely going to have to get him some more pieces. If they're going to want to make a championship run, especially with him signing that Supermax, I think that's something they really have to consider.
Well, you now build the future around Giannis. Like, this is the title window is now. I'm sorry, but you're trading everything you have for draft capital. Like, you need to build around him. And I think this offseason, if they shit out in the playoffs, you see them go out and they get a bigger star. Like, whoever's available outside, the Bucks make a run at.
Yeah, they have to.
They have to. Like, they should have been in on the Victor Oladipo sweepstakes, honestly. If that's all it took to take Victor Oladipo, let's look, you know what, shit-taking here because we have Avery Bradley, we have a first-round swap, and we have Kelly Olynyk. So looking at this roster here, you can take either Pat Connaughton or Dante DiVincenzo and probably already a step up from Avery Bradley. If you want to add some depth at the 4, Bobby Portis is an easy replacement there, you know, for Kelly Olynyk, especially when you're already taking in PJ Tucker at the trade deadline. So you do that, you throw them a couple of seconds or a first-round swap, whatever it may be. If that is what it takes to get Victor Oladipo, shit.
Even if it's renting him for a season, that would have definitely helped.
I know. In this, like I said, I don't think the Nets look like as good as they are on paper because on paper they look like the fucking Avengers, but they're not. I mean, once again, the team to beat in the East, but they're not this Warriors team that we used to have.
The other thing is the Nets are old.
Yeah. Another theme with the fucking Nets, because remember when they shit the bed with the future and they traded for the Celtics players?
The Nets are old.
They traded for old players.
The Nets are old. Like, if they get stuck playing the Knicks and they're going to have to continuously run up and down that course at a fast pace, they're screwed.
Well, because, yeah, what if they draw one of these younger teams in there because you have the Hornets who are young?
Yeah, they get the Hornets who are just flying up and down the court. Miles Bridges going back and forth, not getting tired.
Yeah, because in that playoffs, obviously the Nets will take on the 8 seed, assuming they win. They take on the winner of the 4 and the 5, and that could be the combination of the Hornets, Knicks, Heat, Hawks, Celtics, all fast teams like the Heat, grit and grind. Knicks, young. Hornets, young. Hawks playing. They play super fast, super offensive brand of basketball with Trae Young. You got John Collins down there. Clint Capella's, almost regained like Houston style form down there.
They've actually, since the coaching switch, have been unstoppable.
I think, yeah. How do you fire your coach like 8 games in and then become like one of the better teams? Not saying they're amazing. They're 23 and 24, but once again, the East, kind of below the Bucks, it's anybody's battle 4 through 10.
Yeah.
With the Bulls and the Pacers just sitting right outside.
The only one you count out is the Magic.
Only one. Well, yeah,
and
Magic,
the Pacers.
Well, no, I think you count out more in the East because I think you count out the Pistons are at 13 wins. The Magic are at 16.
I forgot the Pistons got rid of.
I'd love to see the Cavaliers try to make a run, but I think after cutting Drummond, that signals where they're at. The Wizards are once again at 17 wins too. The Raptors. That was a team I thought was going to cut bait at the trade deadline because right now they sit 5 games out from the Celtics for the 8th seed. So, I mean, the likeliness they make the playoffs isn't likely, but I don't know at this point. Shit. I don't see the Pacers making it. Once again, I think the Bulls signal that they're all in, so they could maybe muscle a team out, but I don't know. The East looks very, like, if it's a sandwich, there's a lot of meat in this sandwich. It's very heavy in the middle.
Yeah, it's going to be quite a battle to see who gets the next layer.
Yeah, because 4 or 5, like I said, you're talking about a bunch of teams who can outplay the Nets. You have the Heat, who obviously proved to be a jigsaw for anybody in the playoffs, especially last year during the bubble. The Hornets, if they have LaMelo back,
scary.
That could be fucking dangerous. Cody Zeller's just absolutely going off here. PJ Washington looks like another great future piece. The Hornets are dangerous going forward. I like the Hornets for the future, not the fact that we're in the same division as them, but
and then the Knicks, Scary Terry.
Scary Terry.
Gotta love him.
Gotta love to have Scary Terry back. But the Knicks, though.
My biggest shocker of the season.
I think the biggest shocker is how the Knicks are the Knicks because like Obi Toppin's kind of disappointing, but then you have 23, the 23rd pick, Emmanuel Quigley.
He's crazy.
Yeah,
and then bringing Derrick Rose back, like they're making a run. They're trying to do something and maybe trying to get some fans back for the coming up seasons. Get them back in the Garden.
Yeah, see about the battle in New York, the Nets versus the Knicks. That could be a grungy, gritty playoff series. So
young versus old.
Yeah, I don't know. What do you think about the Pacers? I mean, is Karis LeVert back with them yet?
I believe he actually just came back 2 games ago. I want to say, but I mean, they're kind of so far out of it at this point. I feel like Sabonis has got to be wanting out of there.
Well, Sabonis is going to be a big trade chip. Miles Turner is kind of someone I really thought that would be traded at the deadline.
I thought he was already. I thought he wasn't going to re-sign originally, but that's on him.
That one's kind of surprising because he could be a great defensive center for another team. Indiana just kind of is this team they have good talent, but it just doesn't seem like they fit together. Reminiscent of like the Indiana teams that used to be like the 4 or the 5 seed, like when the Heat were really good, like your Paul George, Danny Granger, Roy Hibbert, David West, George Hill. It felt like they just didn't quite have that. Like Paul George was a superstar, but he was not with this team. It's all about chemistry.
Definitely. You gotta.
You saw the Warriors do it better than I think the Warriors and the Heat and the Bulls, I would say, were the 3 greatest teams to just have that just blend of chemistry.
See, and I read something about that today that it said Dwayne Wade and Steph Curry are the 2 most unselfish players of all time because they gave up individual accolades in their prime for team success.
I think if Dwayne Wade is A, healthy, and B, doesn't team up with LeBron James, you talk about him in the same sentence as Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan. I think D Wade has that potential to be that good, and I think he is. I personally
I think he's in that conversation.
I think he is too, but I think you would hear it more often. But once again, he brought that team in there. He was better than Pippen, I think, at being a 2.
Yeah, but it was like they said, they did it in their prime. Like, it's like they definitely could have tried, and they could have been the guy that was dropping 30, 40 a night to go up on that scoring list. But they were like, no, I want to better my team. I'm going to get more assists, get a few more rebounds here and there. and we're going to let LeBron and Chris Bosh score, or we're going to let KD and Clay score.
Oh god, but talk about like one of the greatest wastes of the career is like Chris Bosh after LeBron left was poised. Like he was averaging like 24 points a game, like 12 rebounds. He was poised to like break the fuck out. I mean, we not saying we would have beat like the Cleveland LeBron teams, but those Heat teams still had a lot of talent on them, and then blood clots just absolutely take them out.
Sad.
So sad times in the history of the Heat. Yeah, I mean, anything else kind of in the Eastern Conference? I'm just looking through like the Pacers roster here. It's just
I think we pretty much covered the East pretty well.
yeah. So uh, let's see here. Moving on to the Western Conference. Let's bring up the standings here. So for the West right now, we got a couple of surprises because I think you talk about that's a conference. We expected some things, but we did not expect the other things. Because you have the Utah Jazz at 35-11. Suns are 3 games behind them. The Clippers are a game and a half behind them. Then you got the Lakers, Nuggets, Blazers, Mavericks, Spurs that rounds out the playoff picture. But after that, you have a lot of teams that are still kind of in the thick of things because let's count it out, within 5 games of the wild card, you have the Grizzlies, Warriors, Kings, Pelicans, and Thunder. So really only the Wolves and the Rockets, I think, are out of it right now.
Yeah. The Wolves and the Rockets are definitely, I mean, the Wolves next year, they get another piece. They could be a scary team. We see Edwards coming into his own. He's really starting to blossom after the All-Star break. And Karl Anthony Towns looks like he's having fun again.
Yeah, I think they're actually like enjoying playing basketball there. You just need, once again, you need more pieces there. You got point guard, you got, one of your wings, you got your center. You got to go out and get a complete roster now if you're Minnesota. So finishing at the bottom, I think you take a top talent in this draft that could go a long way for helping you in the future. But
they need a small forward.
They do, because I think Anthony Edwards is better at a 2.
Yeah, you have Anthony Edwards at 2. You got D'Angelo at the 1. You got Cat down at the 5. I guess you could take a better power forward too, and you could probably play Culliver as an undersized small forward because Jarrett Culliver is good in his own right as well.
He is,
and you also have McDaniels too. Didn't they get?
Yeah, Jaden McDaniels.
McDaniels
out of Washington. Yep.
So, I mean, they're deep, they're young, and in a few years, maybe watch out.
I think if you're the Wolves, you just got to get a direction because they've had a lot of talent pass through there, but they haven't like capitalized through it. They've had great players like Kevin Garnett. They've had Kevin Love there. They've had good players there, but I just don't think they've capitalized on it. Rockets are in full just shitstorm. I mean, just burn it all down mode. I think that's been pretty obvious since the beginning of the season. They should have just traded James Harden because I think they could have gotten more for him at the end of the day.
I think they could have got a way better deal from the 76ers in the start of it.
Oh, yeah. Or even the Miami Heat. I think they could have had a better deal from.
But I also think James Harden did what he did, and he was able to get traded for merely nothing and go exactly where he wanted. So at the end of the day, he is happy. Us as fans are not. And it is what it is.
So the politics in the NBA go. But still, I mean, Western Conference is fucking nuts just like the NBA because I don't think anybody saw the Jazz and the Suns being the top teams. You definitely saw a leap from the Suns after going 8-0 in the bubble.
Oh, yeah. You knew that the Suns were going to be coming out with something, and when they go and get CP3, it was like, okay.
Yeah, but that was like the move, though, for them. I mean, we kind of thought, like, maybe, is this it? Maybe, I mean, I don't know. CP3's old, but is this the move that puts the Suns where they need to be? And it was, yeah.
He's a facilitator. He's one of the greatest facilitators of all time.
Well, and Jay Crowder works good with the team, too, but I think you see DeAndre Ayton improving. Obviously, Devin Booker's the, rifle superstar getting the attention he deserves.
Second highest points in the modern era.
So, yeah, D-Book hitting the books. They're the number 2 team. The Jazz, though, I think is the bigger surprise because you saw the Suns doing a leap, so I guess maybe their leap to 2 isn't as surprising. So I saw them being in like that 4 to 6 range at the end of it. This year, like really jumping into that meat of the Western Conference. I didn't see them as the 2 seed. The Lakers, the Clippers, the Nuggets are still, kind of within shouting distance there, but the Jazz, even with Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, obviously defensive player of the year pretty much every year, it seems like at this point. But I mean, Jordan Clarkson, man, coming back out of fucking nowhere.
He is on a revenge tour, it seems like. He almost looks like Laker Jordan Clarkson.
I know the old school Laker Jordan Clarkson, talking like back with Kobe whispering in his ear, going out for 20 and 25 off the bench because Jordan, he's been the best off the bench, you know. But even then, I mean, Donovan Mitchell, bona fide superstar.
Mike Conley is even coming into his own, having
Right.
a really good year.
Right, you were kind of hoping for that from him last year, and you saw some of it in the playoffs too with the Jazz because they had that monster series against the Nuggets.
Yeah.
So, because they could have been the Nuggets last year, they could have been the team who beats the Clippers, coming back from 3-1 and goes on to play the Lakers. Not saying that they had that magic of the Nuggets, but that first series was so competitive, you didn't know where it could have gone from there. It's kind of
I think if the Jazz beat the Nuggets, Paul George still shits the bed. I think somehow the Clippers would have came up with that and
fucking playoff.
See what would have happened against the Lakers.
Here's the thing, though, in an alternate universe with Bojan Bogdanovic, because he was supposed to go to the Bucks this offseason, wasn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, Bogdanovic, and so obviously that move doesn't work out. He's with the Jazz.
That would have been the piece they needed.
I think so because he's played fantastic for the Jazz this year. Once again, I think Clarkson, Connolly, Derek Favors plays good off the bench.
I thought Bogdanovic ended up going to the Hawks.
Maybe that's the other one.
The one that we're thinking of ended up going to the Hawks.
The big one? No, because this is the small forward because the other one's like the fucking center. He's like 7'3". Bogdan?
No, I'm thinking of the one that plays for the Kings was the good shooter. He ended up going to the Hawks. I'm almost positive.
Well, Bogdanovic for them is playing good.
Yeah, he's been on their roster. He's been on the Jazz for a while.
I didn't know they had Ilyasova. I guess I really haven't heard much from him this year. But Joe Ingles, Everyman Joe is a fucking great player. I don't know. Which of these teams do you think lasts longer in the fucking playoffs?
I mean, they're all deep. It is gonna be a fun playoff series. I mean, the Lakers are deep. You see the Jazz, they seem to be deep and have some great life coming off of the bench. And the Suns are very young. They have a lot of freshness to them, minus Chris Paul.
Well, but Chris Paul, I mean, he could be a facilitator. He could be that kind of point guard who ages gracefully into his role because he doesn't have to be the leader.
He can still drop 30. He can still drop 30 a night on you if he wants 100%, to.
100%, but I'm just saying he doesn't need to. You don't need to rely him on that because, yeah, you got Devin Booker. You got DeAndre Ayton who's blossoming into his own player. Mikal Bridges has been a lockdown defender.
Not his brother, but...
Yeah. No. He's still been a good player. Javon Carter's played good at the point for him. Jay Crowder, I miss him in Miami because he's been a good player for them. I didn't know they had Frank Kaminsky. I guess that's one that kind of surprised me looking through their roster. And then Dario Saric.
I think he is one of my biggest disappointments of all time.
Who?
Frank.
Oh, Frank the Tank?
He was so good in college.
I don't know. I saw him maybe being a little bit better, but everybody was like pegging him as the next Dirk. But I was like, don't get me wrong. He took down that amazing Kentucky team that could have gone undefeated. But still, I think the ceiling's there for, Frank the Tank. I mean, because Dirk doesn't survive in today's NBA at where he was in his game, because I think Dirk was perfect for the early 2000s game of basketball. But if he's a good player, he's an all-star in today's game. But he's not.
I also think that like if Dirk was coming in this time and he had all the training that these kids have now, and had this style of game, you might be looking at one of the greatest basketball players. You're looking at a Luka 2.0.
Well, I know, but but you then have to bring that argument everywhere. Okay,
give
Wilt Chamberlain the training of today.
I had this argument one time with Mike, friend of the program. We were talking about if like Nolan Ryan and like other pitchers like back then who were throwing heat had like the training now to how they throw, like they'd probably be throwing like 105 consistently.
Oh, it'd be absolutely crazy to go back and just think about it, because you look at Babe Ruth, someone who was just, obese, but hit the ball with such power. Once again, like you said, if you could bring them to modern day training, that could be a whole episode we could do sometime. Top 10 athletes, top 10 modernized athletes.
Babe Ruth is smashing balls going. You have Babe Ruth and Aroldis Chapman throwing 102 at you. You think Babe Ruth is smashing those?
Yeah. Yeah, I think Babe Ruth is with modern training. With modern training, once again, you're changing the circumstances.
So we're making Babe Ruth look like Pete Alonso?
I don't know. I mean, Babe Ruth also at the same time. I mean, maybe not, but still, he's still a very accurate hitter. He still was a fantastic pitcher. You can't argue some of the better qualities, but I will shit on Babe Ruth all day long for pretty much being the greatest player ever in a white man's game of baseball. Like, like Babe Ruth, there's a huge asterisk next to his career. But once again, if we're talking ability and if he were to, put all that hot dog and beer and bullshit aside and actually like fucking train, have Babe Ruth go fucking keto and see what happens.
Like you said, I think we figured out a conversation for another pod on another day.
There we go. Add it to the list, man. Um, yeah, I mean, jumping back to the Western Conference, though, Jazz 1-2. Clippers and Lakers. The Clippers, once again, that Lou Will move is bothering me because the Clippers this year, I think they're recharged, but they're no different than the team who, choked it out their ass last year, and I don't think would beat the Lakers.
I think the biggest loss is, honestly, their whole season is Montrezl Harrell.
Yeah. I think that was a huge, huge loss at the 5 for him. Because they didn't really have, kind of much going up front anyways. You still got Pat Beverly. I mean, I guess you bring Serge Ibaka to town. Luke Kennard is kind of finally starting to play with the player you wanted him to play like. But, yeah, like I said, Rajon Rondo makes sense for me in the just role you need him in. You need him in for passing and defense. But you're taking away a lot of points. I don't know. Can you replace Lou Will's production for what you're getting on the defensive side of Rajon Rondo?
I don't think you can.
Yeah, I don't think that was a win for them at all. I mean, if the Clippers win a title, fuck me, I'm wrong. But I think this hurts your chances. I like you with Lou Will. But Lou Will also has underperformed in the playoffs before. His offense doesn't really get along as well against, better teams in the playoffs. I think statistically he's a lower scoring player in the playoffs.
Yes, and the defense is a lot more important in the playoffs. For sure.
Exactly. So maybe the guys who are actually hired to do this job know more than a couple of yokels from South Dakota. Who knows? I guess the future is yet to be seen on that one. Goddamn, though. Now I'm looking at 5, though. The Nuggets, I think, are my team who could definitely rise because they're only 6.5 games behind the Jazz. We still got, a handful of games left to play. But getting Aaron Gordon is scary.
Huge. Absolutely a monstrous move for them. If they have Aaron Gordon, they don't get 3-1 last year.
No. Oh, Jesus, no. Are you kidding me? Like, who? Because who is big enough to stop them? Like, Rudy Gobert sure is good for the Jazz, but Rudy Gobert and Derek Favors, does that go up against Jokic and Aaron Gordon? I mean, sure, LeBron and Anthony Davis go up against Jokic and Aaron Gordon, but like I said, the Lakers are their own matchup nightmare in their own right. Like,
but
who else
you
is
add
big enough?
Drummond to that mix to go up against Aaron
True,
Gordon.
fuck, I keep forgetting about Andre Drummond.
Dude, the Lakers, like I said, they acquired the gauntlet. I hate to say, but they're winning another.
They got the Infinity Stone in?
Yeah, I mean, even like when you go to look at it, it's like if they match up against the Nets, they're screwed.
Yeah.
The Nets won't be able to go up and down with that team the whole time. They don't have the young enough depth. Like, their bench player, like, I believe the youngest player on their squad now is Joe Harris and, like, whatever rookie they got. Maybe Landry Shamet.
Well, yeah.
But everyone else on their everyone else on their squad's old. Like, even Tyler Johnson isn't young anymore.
Well, Tyler Johnson's like 31, 32 now.
Still not young anymore.
Long past his young years, yeah. So, because the West is complicated. It's still the Lakers conference, maybe. The Trailblazers, though, are gritty this year. I think Dame Lillard's having an MVP season. I'm going to talk about that one because
I honestly think it's kind of smart. The Lakers are falling now. They'll knock out a tough team right away and should be pretty smooth sailing for them.
Well, because right now, as it stands, they'll play the Nuggets in the first round. That would be a hell of an interesting matchup. But if not, if they creep into the 3 seed, they play someone like the Blazers,
or even if they continue to fall to the 5, because they don't have Anthony Davis, I believe, for 2 more weeks, and LeBron for 1 to 2 more also.
Well, yeah, because 1 game behind them is the Nuggets and the Blazers. They could fall to the 6. Now, there's 5 games between them and the Mavericks, so I don't really see them falling that far. But yeah, they could fall to the 6, and then. Ooh, what if we get Clippers-Lakers in the first round?
That would be incredible.
That would be fantastic. A 3-6 matchup. Winner goes on to play, ideally Suns-Mavericks. I don't know. Yeah, because the top 6 is pretty much in play, I think, as far as the playoffs. That's going to be kind of a jockey for that position. The Blazers, the Nuggets, the Lakers, the Clippers, they're all within 2 games of each other right now. But then you get to the 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14.
Hold on. Breaking news. This is what we do on sports podcasts now.
Yeah, no shit. What's up?
Frankie Lindor just signed a 10-year extension with the Mets for $341 million.
God, back up the goddamn Brinks truck. Beep, beep, beep. Here we go. So, yeah, breaking news in the sports world here is we're going to kind of break from our Western Conference coverage. Francisco Lindor, who was just traded to the New York Mets, did he have 1 or 2 years left on his deal?
This was it.
This was it. So 1 year left on his deal. Steve Cohen says, fuck it. You know what? We're going to, whatever Fernando Tatis Jr. just got, take 3 years off of that. Go ahead and add $28 million. That's what we'll pay you right there.
Take 4.
$341 million. What?
Take 4 years.
Oh, damn. Yeah, that's right. It was a 14-year contract. So, God, what do you think about that? Quick take here about Lindor next 10 years with the Mets. Because he's only, 26, 27?
34.1 mil annually. Highest paid shortstop in the game. Well deserved. And when he gets older and not as agile there, move him to second base.
Yeah, I mean, fantastic infield player. You can even almost put him at third base the older he gets, just kind of depending on what you want to do. But yeah, the Mets, a lot of flexibility. We kind of talked about them being some of the favorites in the East on our baseball podcast that you guys will have to listen into. So yeah, absolutely incredible breaking news there, coming in at 3/31/2021 at 9:24 in the evening. So nice little MLB break there. Anyways, back to what we were talking about before with the Western Conference. A lot of meat here sitting at the 7th seed, the 8th seed, because let's count it fucking here. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 teams. So 8 through 13 is 5 games of difference. So you have the Spurs sitting at 23 and 21. You have the Thunder at the bottom at 19 and 27. We can talk about the Thunder a little bit, but right in the middle, you got the Pelicans, Kings, Warriors, and Grizzlies. Out of those 4 teams, who do you think is the best chance to make a playoff run for that 8th or 7th seed?
If everyone can stay healthy on the Warriors and the way that they're playing, I would say watch out. Kelly's kind of coming into his own. The Grizzlies, young team, very energetic. Ja Morant is a highlight reel himself, but De'Aaron Fox has been playing out of his mind. But as we know, this is a team sport. You need more than just 2 players to score some points.
Yeah, exactly. I think the Grizzlies are just a little too young. They could make a run for it, but I think they're an easy bounce in the playoffs. The Warriors give anybody the most fits just because of the pure talent.
Did Bagley get shipped yet?
No, Bagley did not get shipped at the deadline. Nope. No, he's injured right now. The Kings are actually running a little 3-guard lineup right now. They're going Fox, Buddy, and Halliburton.
Halliburton.
Yep. Tyrese Halliburton. Good old Iowa State Cyclones. I don't know. The Pelicans would be fucking great to see because I thought Lonzo would get shipped.
I didn't want him to get shipped. I actually think that they're going to get a deal done.
Yeah, I don't want him to get shipped, but all the rumors kind of indicated he would, though.
I think Van Gundy really likes him, and I think that they're going to get a deal done in the offseason.
Yeah, because, you got Zion there and Brandon Ingram, 2 guys who are definitely going to be stars in this league.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, so.
And even Jackson Hayes.
Jackson Hayes is looking good. Jackson Hayes is looking good at the center position. They got a lot of low-key talent. They could be a problem in the playoffs if it starts coming together a little bit more for them.
And Zion is putting up numbers right now.
It's a fucking issue, man. I love how everybody's talking about, how is he going to score in the NBA? I'm like, well, same exact way he's always scored efficiently inside. And yeah, he can hit the mid-range, he can hit threes, but he's been fantastic.
Short Shaq.
So I don't know, but like you said, I think the Warriors are a team who could definitely go into the playoffs there, could cause some havoc from the 8th or the 7th seed, because I think the Spurs, getting rid of LaMarcus Aldridge, they're still a good team. They're fighting in there. They've got great coaching, obviously, with Becky Hammon and Greg Popovich, but someone bounces them, I think, from the 8th seed. I see the Mavericks still being in there, but I think someone bounces the Spurs from the 8th seed. What do you think?
I think the Spurs will definitely get bounced, and they either need to do something with DeMar DeRozan or get him another piece.
Yeah. I'd almost blow it up, but once again with DeMar DeRozan, you never know with the Spurs. You never know with Pop because he's getting older.
It's almost time for him to call it.
Yeah. Turn over the reins to Becky Hammon.
He needs to just go ride some horses, go do some stuff that makes him happy, maybe go swing a golf club on a nice beach course.
That seems like nothing Greg Popovich would do. None of that seems like anything he would enjoy doing. He's like the Bill Belichick in the NBA.
Yeah, he'll probably just sit around and watch NBA all day.
Exactly. Well, that kind of ends. I mean, with the playoff predictions, we were really already talking about this going forward. So out of the East, Nets, Lakers. You have the Lakers kind of winning it all at this point. On paper.
If Andre Drummond can continue to do what he was doing throughout this season and last, I don't see it. I don't see it going any other way.
Thanks. He's making his first start tonight for the Lakers, and let's see. Currently, it's about halfway through the game. He should have some minutes here. Andre Drummond, 2 of 6, 4 points, 1 rebound. So not much in 13 minutes, but hopefully he can be that player for the Lakers. Let's talk about some awards here, though, and then we're going to finish off with a new segment that Ciglen and I are going to be doing on the show that we'll explain in a little bit. But with the MVP race, who's your pick right now?
So this one's going to be a hot take, but I think with everything going on, I think that your MVP has to be LeBron. I mean, you saw how the Lakers were, and after he got injured, like Anthony Davis got injured, and they were still winning. Like they were still moving chips. LeBron goes out, they fall 4 straight.
I think LeBron is the case for the literal definition of most valuable player. I'd probably put Dame Lillard up there too because the Trailblazers are a lottery team without him. I still think Nikola Jokic is going to get it at the end of the year because right now, I mean, where I'm reading these stats, he's at 27 points a game, 11 rebounds, 8.5 assists, a steal and a half. The dad bod god is just absolutely fantastic out there in Denver, and I think it's only going to get better with Aaron Gordon coming to town.
The Joker does deserve it, and yeah, Aaron Gordon will allow him to open it up and maybe even get some more assists. You'll see some big-to-big lobs.
Oh, that would be fantastic, right? I mean, just getting up there because Gordon is the exact opposite physically of Nikola Jokic. I mean, he just hops for days at 6'11",
just a full court pass into a massive dunk contest style dunk.
Yeah, because the potential for the Nuggets, man, they could do some damage. But yeah, for MVP, like I said, I think either Jokic. Obviously, Giannis always puts up the numbers 28.5, 11.5, 6.5 with assists, and then a little over a steal and a block a game. I don't know. He doesn't seem as impressive as the other years. Like LeBron seems to have more of a case. I think Dame seems to have more of a case. Giannis is just kind of there being Giannis light.
I think Giannis will always be discussed kind of how like LeBron's always discussed.
Exactly. So a couple of other dark horses, I think Luka Doncic, Chris Paul, Steph Curry.
Curry before the injury.
Yeah, Curry before the injury. Jimmy Butler, if he didn't go out with COVID and he didn't get hurt, I think, you're talking about a guy who is averaging like 23, 8, and 8 right now. So absolutely on a tear as far as just overall play. But once again, the guys we talked about, LeBron, Jokic up until recently, with LeBron have been consistent all year long. And that's what you get out of MVPs every year is just consistent performance. Moving on to the next award here, Rookie of the Year. So obviously I think LaMelo Ball was the winner before his injury, right?
Yeah.
Do you think he still has a chance to win even after?
I think he should. I mean, you saw what he did. You saw how he helped. I mean, he set the record for the most points scored by the youngest player in the NBA history. So that's something you got to consider. Like his name's already in the record books. Or the youngest player ever to score a triple-double.
Yeah, so, I mean, LaMelo was my favorite player coming in. Anthony Edwards is the new favorite, I think, to win Rookie of the Year. I mean, I think in the last 2 weeks he's averaging 25 points. He's coming into his own, but still I think LaMelo's the gem of this class.
Yeah, I think it's a three-headed monster between the three guards, and I mean either one of those three could win it.
Yeah, because Halliburton's been playing good too with the starting duties we talked about with Fox and Hield.
He was number 2 in the race for the longest time.
Yeah, well, I mean, as far as the newest the rookie ladder from NBA.com that they kind of released, the Kia rookie ladder, March 24th edition puts Halliburton at number 2. So right below Anthony Edwards. But LaMelo Ball's still number 6. So, when he comes back, if he puts together a little bit of a run, I think he can still definitely jump over Anthony Edwards. If Anthony Edwards goes back to how he's been playing. If he keeps up 25 points a game, different conversation.
But LaMelo's that all around. He gets you the assist and the rebounds too.
That's true, because LaMelo, they were starting at the 3 for a second there, even though he was drafted as a point guard. So
he just wants to play.
So LeBron, is he also your favorite for Defensive Player of the Year? Do you think he finally wins a Defensive Player of the Year? Because there's a couple of years I think he was deserving, and he needs to win one before it's all said and done.
I think Rudy is playing phenomenal defense right now, and he could go.
He's almost 3 blocks a game.
Yeah, I think Rudy's probably going to go back-to-back. I hate to try to discredit LeBron, but...
Hey, by all means, you know what I mean? Love LeBron, but like you said, I mean, he's just kind of playing. It'd just be kind of cool to see LeBron win one, but you also have Ben Simmons, Miles Turner, Bridges, making good cases for the award, but I think right now it's a 1A to 2, not even a 1B, just a 1 to 2,
Yeah.
with Gobert being number 1 and Bron being number 2. So defensive player of the year, most improved player this year. I guess I didn't even look up any rankings for this. I'm trying to think of anybody off the top of my head who would probably make it for most improved player. Maybe Julius Randle.
Yeah.
Julius Randle probably, making it to the All-Star game after last year would probably be my pick.
I think Julius Randle will probably actually win the award.
Yeah, Zach LaVine, because he had a bump in points and everything. Jeremy Grant for Detroit, because he's averaging like 22 and a half points a game for them. I think he could win it just because he's getting those garbage points.
I think that personally it has to be Julius Randle. I think he's hands down the most improved.
Oh, hands, yeah. I
all
would agree.
around.
That's my winner.
That's how most improved should be looked at. Like how last year Brandon Ingram won it because he was the most improved player.
Oh, yeah.
Like his numbers completely changed all around.
Well, and just the eye test of what you saw from Los Angeles Brandon Ingram all the way to New Orleans Brandon Ingram. Two completely different worlds.
Definitely.
So, right on. Any other awards I think we're missing here? No. I don't really want to talk about coach or executive of the year. So whatever. I'm just pretty much thinking in 2K terms at this point. Like, all right. Cycling through. Okay. Yep. All right. Got all the awards. Finally here, last part of this show is we're going to do a little segment that Ciglen and I came up with called Devil's Advocate. So essentially what we're going to do is we're going to round robin back and forth on a choice of 10 topics. Essentially, Ciglen will get to choose his position on one topic, and then I have to argue against him for the other one, no matter what my feelings are at the end of the day. Ciglen, are you ready for this?
I am ready.
All right, fantastic. So the first one is the NBA should change the draft age to 18. Ciglen, choose your position and make the argument.
I think so. This is actually really hard for me because this one is a double-sided sword. Because I feel like there are some players who feel that they're NBA ready and they should be able to come in, but I do not think that they should change it with all of the things that they're making to go around and be able to help you to better your game before you go into the NBA. I think they should leave it where it's at. You should be 19 to come to the NBA unless you did like that whole academy thing that Thon Maker did, or kind of like how LaMelo did and how he went overseas and he's been playing professional basketball since he was 17. So I don't think they should change it. I think the way that college athletes are about to start getting paid, the way that they should, I think that the Ignite G League team is going to be a big step up. And then, I mean, you have the opportunity to go to New Zealand, go to Australia, go play for one of these other international teams, as we're seeing is the new norm for some of these top recruits. So I think that they should go out, get a little bit of different professional experience before you go hop into the NBA from straight out of high school. I think the talents that did that in this day and age, that time is gone. Because, I mean, you don't want to be that kid who just comes straight out of high school, was the king of the ESPN draft class or whatever. They have no college tape of you. They didn't see how you matured or how you grew as a leader growing up. And then you go and try to become a leader of an NBA team at 18 where you're going to try to boss around some people that are 3 to 13 years older than you. I mean, I just don't think it's going to work. But if you have that leadership and they see what you did at a different professional level, or they saw what you were able to do in the collegiate level and they saw how you were to lead or carry a team, I think that does make a big impact on draft stock.
Okay. Well, to counter that here, I'm going to say I think the NBA draft age was better at 18. I think the rule was only for a select few players to come out and to prove their ability, because in history you have your Moses Malones, you have your Kobe Bryants, your Kevin Garnett's, your LeBron James. God, who else am I thinking of? Dwight Howard, who kind of came out of high school. Even guys like Josh Childress or Steven Jackson, I think, came out of high school as well. Andrew Bynum was another player who came out of high school. Even guys who probably didn't have the long-term success. The 18-year-old rule was always for star athletes. And I think they were for star players, and it was for the guys who I've seen several athletes who should have never went to college. Anthony Davis, Zion Williamson, Ben Simons, like these are guys who never should have went to college in the first place, or Simon Simmons, whatever. Ben Simmons should never have went to LSU. Anthony Davis sure was fun seeing him at Kentucky, but I think he could have went to the NBA as a top 10 pick. Now in college he solidified himself, but he could have gone to the NBA. And Zion was the number one pick ever since his junior year in high school. So I think when you're talking about the 18-year-old rule, I don't think this opens it up, because now that we do have all these avenues, I think it is a better time. I think it's a better time for us to change the rule to 18, because yeah, you have the avenue of, if you don't want to play American collegiate ball, then, and because I think then you're going to get more players who are focused on staying in college basketball. You're not going to have one and done players in college basketball like you do with the 19-year-old rule, because you have the G League and everything going on with that. You have a lot of the overseas programs in Spain and New Zealand and Australia starting to grow and starting to take on a lot of these younger players who maybe need a year or two. But I think one thing that's been missing is college basketball and the pipeline of mature players that it gave to the NBA. And I think you're missing that out of the 80s and the 90s, because in that time, in the 18-year-old rule, the players who could go right away in the first, straight out of high school or 1 year in college did, because they were free to do so. But you saw college teams become better and stronger. I think the one and done rule has created a phenomena that you saw the ice just break this year with Duke and Kentucky, because they were just one and done, one and done, one and done, and they haven't been developing teams and developing rosters. So when all you do is rely on individual talent instead of team talent, you're not getting that. I think it makes a better product for college basketball. I think it makes a better product for worldwide basketball, and it makes a better pipeline to the NBA for young players. In my personal opinion, Ciglen, go ahead and close your choice on this argument.
Like I said, it was a dual-sided sword for me. I agree with both edges. And I think about winning the national championship and like what that brings to the table, and like the dream of doing that and how that would help you. So, but in the end, I do agree with you that it has changed, and like we're about to see another one who, if the 18 rule does change, Mikey Williams, he is going to be NBA ready. He trains with NBA players. He runs around on one of the best AAU teams in the nation. So yes, the 18 rule should change, and it will benefit. And you're right, Mikey Williams is probably not the guy that should be going to college, because he already has the brand around him. He already has everything built around him, the same way LaMelo does. And LaMelo didn't need college.
No, exactly. And so, like I said, I was just arguing the counter, because actually, like I'm very 50-50 on this, like you as well. So I was just kind of arguing the counterpoint. So yeah, that's the first round of Devil's Advocate there. Second one that we are going to be reading off here is going to be changing the NBA draft to after free agency. And this is my point to choose. So what I'm going to argue for is I'm 100% in support of this. Because I think in the NFL, one thing that is really interesting is that you have the free agency period before the NFL draft. You get to fill a lot of the holes knowing what you're going to spend, because the salaries like in the NBA, in the NFL are slotted. So you're guaranteed to make so much money for whatever pick you're going to be. It's pretty easy. It's pretty slotted. Everything's pretty kosher for it. So I think what you do is you change the NBA draft to after free agency. You go ahead and you fill your needs in free agency. And then after that, you draft players and you get everything going. So I don't know. Personally, I just believe that we should do the NBA draft after free agency, because, as far as just kind of filling players and filling team needs, it makes more sense to go out and spend that and then fill kind of the minor needs in the draft, rather so than, vice versa, because that's the way it's done in most sports.
I hate the opposition that you picked, because I fully agree with you. I hate how the NBA free agency is done. I don't even have a way to argue this one. I think the way that they run it.
All right. We will move on though, because we're only going to do a couple of these and we're going to save some for later. So we will do two more. All right. So what I will give you the choice then, and I will argue the counter on, is 1 through 16 playoff seeding. So essentially you get 8 seeds from the West, 8 seeds from the East, but then you take total record, you divide them into a 1 to 16 playoff format. No conference specific championships whatsoever, 1 through 16.
No, you're not doing that.
Take the opposition then.
You're not doing that. You've had a Western Conference final and you've had an Eastern Conference final for literally the test of time. Like, if you're going to do that, why the fuck would we even have conferences? Why don't we just make everyone a ranking 1 through 30? Like, that's gavel done right there.
Gavel done, huh?
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to fight the opposition here then. I 100% think so, because I think in time you have had the conferences right now this year, it looks like there's a lot of balance between the East and the West, but that's the first case in a while because the West has run rampant. Because there's been times, man, I remember that fucking the East has teams that are like
It was the
six games back from 500. Hold on, motherfucker. I'll let you argue your point. You let me argue the
It
opposition.
wasn't
Because
even that. It was
I
on
will
yours.
state this. I do not agree with 1 through 16 playoff seeding, but it is my job to argue this. So, playing devil's advocate here, I think you have a lot of teams who have been hampered in the past by strong conferences. You have teams from the West who are rightfully good playoff teams. And now we're not even talking that sort of playoff seeding, but I just think like when you seed the playoffs together, it'd be a lot more interesting to have 1 through 16, 2 to 15, and have a lot more, cross conference matchups.
I'd say 4 to 6 years ago, I would totally agree with your side. Back when the West had 12 teams that could have made the playoffs and the East only had 4 that were worthy. But at this day and age, the way that it is split up and the way that the test of time is gone, I think if you set up and you had a West Conference championship, like 4 teams of the West Conference, like who do you give the East Conference title to? How is that going to work? Is there just no more conference titles and we're just switching that and now everyone's just a seed?
Well, yeah, essentially, like your conference champion would kind of come from like your pennant winner, like it used to in baseball, and essentially, you just have like the ultimate champion at the end of the day in the 1 through 16 playoff seeding. But what you're saying is because of the NBA landscape now, to counter that point, like the NBA's always been like that. It's leveled off for a couple of years, and then it's been extremely biased. Like think about the '90s, man. With Jordan, the Bulls, they ran a fucking '90s that had a great Miami Heat team. The Knicks were on fire. The Pacers with Reggie Miller were at their pinnacle. The Magic were dominant. And then who do you have out west? The fucking Rockets. Like that's it. Like that's why the Rockets won. After Jordan left that year is because everybody in the East was so goddamn dog tired of fighting themselves that the Rockets were just like, oh, like the one good team, like the one really good team, like they deserved to win their title, but played in a way easier Western Conference. So I'm just saying, like over time, though, to argue this, I agree.
You would make that point with Cleveland in 2014 to 2018.
Exactly. Thank you for making my point. Oh. All right, last one here. Oh, here's a controversial one. All right, play-in tournaments. So we can either do play-in tournaments for the 8th seed or play-in tournaments for draft picks, eliminating the draft lottery process and having the bottom teams play it out for their draft position. What do you think?
I like the play-in tournament for the 8th, how they did it in the bubble last year. The Zion rule.
The Zion rule?
The Zion rule.
Yeah.
I think that made it more fun. I think it kind of made it a little bit competitive. So you had whatever team was the one game out, and it was like, so these are the 2 bottom feeders. They're either 1 or 2 games out from behind each other. Let's see which one of them is better in a 1 game or 3 game series.
I think that was fantastic. I loved it. I love the whole AC tournament plan. But I have to argue you're opposite here, and it's been like this for a while. The 8th seed is the 8th seed for a reason, and they're usually a team who's going to lose to the 1 seed anyways. So the only reason to actually add this on would just be a revenue point. I think you have the field. I think it's set at 16 teams for a reason. At that point, when you're talking about stretching it, how far are we going to stretch it? Are we talking about 8 and 9 play together, or are we talking 8, 9, 10, 11? Like, how far are you stretching this to the point where I think 1 through 8, you're already having more teams make the playoffs or have a potential shot to make the playoffs, in your scenario than teams who are not. You already have more teams in that contention. I think it's already diluted enough. You know what I mean? Baseball has only 10 teams that make the playoffs at this point, before the expanded playoffs. So just saying.
Well, I think of like that play-in game as like wild card. Like wild card in the NFL, the teams that they're not quite there, but they could make it and see what happens, like how the 9-7 Giants did it or whatever. But
so, even then, they have 7 teams for each conference. There's still more teams missing the playoffs. My thing is just saying, like, expanding this. My argument is that it dilutes the purpose of a playoff seed.
See, well, I feel like the expansion. It's only last year, wasn't it? Only the 8 versus the 9 to figure out who was the true 8 seed.
Yes.
So I mean, I feel like that's how are we trying to expand this? Because like when I'm looking at how that's read, that's all I'm reading this into is the 9 versus the 8 to figure out who's the
Well,
true 8
all I'm
seed.
saying here in opposition is just you start here and then it just all goes to fucking hell, and then you have a 32 team playoff after they expand the league, and then it's just not important anymore, Ciglen. All right, just none of it matters. The whole world's going to shit.
I disagree. I think the 9 versus 8 to see who the true 8 seed would be a great
It'd be fantastic.
addition.
Yeah, I'm 100% in support of that. 100% in support of that. So
See, we've both got the short end of the stick.
yeah. Well, I'll think of better points next time. I just thought a devil's advocate. I thought it'd be really fun to just to have to argue the con. So
Well, yeah, and we can definitely come up with more points. And as you see there, we have plenty saved for another NBA episode.
oh, exactly. Yep. The season is still young. We're definitely gonna be talking the playoffs as they start, and then we'll have to wrap it all up after the finals. It's gonna be a great time. Anything you want to end the show with here, Sig, as you sign us out?
No, I just want to say thanks for listening. This is going to be, I guess, perennial our first episode of Cig N The Big. So thanks for listening, and hopefully we'll have some more stuff to talk about and enjoy our plethora of sports knowledge and random sports facts that we're going to be bringing you this season.
Yeah. Once again, that was Sig. I'm the Big Cole Blenner. We are out.